You stepped into the CEO role in February, and immediately there was an earnings problem that you'd inherited. The stock got cratered, and you've spent a lot of the past few months just trying to recuperate and grab your sea legs, so to speak, right?
Well, you know, there's nothing like the need for change to get you to dig deep and make sure you start that reinvention process as quickly as possible. Obviously, coming from Google, the anticipation was for me to help lead a reinvention and take growth to the next level at the company. Sure. So in some ways, you know, you try to look at every negative as a positive. How do I actually get the entire team really excited about the future, where we take the company and just do it faster?
Is it easier in some ways when you come in during a crisis, you know, this baptism by fire, to have that call for change? Do people feel the sense of urgency when they know that, hey, we got a new leader and there's been some problems?
Yeah, I think, look, this is an iconic company with amazing global brand franchises, and they want to win. People work at this company because they're passionate about kids and kids' development, and so being able to unlock their passion and channel that energy in a shared direction for the future has been probably the most fun I've had in the entire experience over the last 6 months.
So play is hard. I mean, it's a hard business, especially because the way kids are playing is changing, you know, where there's so much more technology. I know that I had dinner conversations, and you did as well, about people saying, well, my teenager is spending way too much time on the phone, and should I keep her off of Snapchat and, you know, Instagram? But there is that focus so much on, you know, being attached to the screen. How do you then get people excited about Mattel and Barbie and Big Wheels and American Girl dolls?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go back to the basics, if you look at the generation that we serve today, we're serving millennial parents and we're serving Generation Alpha. So I totally agree with you. A lot of people call them Generation Glass. Mm-hmm. You know, the first of them were born when the iPad and Instagram were launched. And this is definitely a generation that's grown up, expecting the world to be immersive, adaptable, increasingly customized, and they want to be in charge. And so there's no question that no matter what business, there's been a lot of people speaking up here today about the fact that consumers have changed forever. This generation of Generation Alpha millennials are probably, we're at the front end of that spear.
And you're training this vanguard of kids to become the innovators of tomorrow. You talk a lot about this link between play and innovation. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, we are really passionate about children's learning and development at Mattel, and it's certainly a huge personal passion of mine even before I came to the company. But play's child's work, and there's a direct linkage between play, creativity, and innovation. When you play, it creates wonder, and it opens kids' hearts and minds to discovering new things. And there's empirical evidence, just 3 quick examples. If you think about just the fundamental process of play, you have an idea, you imagine it, you create it, you experiment with it, you see different possibilities. That's very similar to the design thinking process that we all use in innovation. If you think about imaginary and fantasy play, that's directly connected with seeing divergent ideas, unlocking possibilities and understanding all the different things. And that's what Silicon Valley's about. It's about seeing what if and why not. And I can't tell you how many people got on stage when I was at Google who talked about their passion for Star Wars or Star Trek, and it gave them this unbridled vision of the future and what was possible. And then you take really simple things like emotion through pretend play. Learning how to act out and express your emotions is directly connected to the ability to collaborate and express yourself, which again is fundamental to creativity. So we're really focused on how do we create that next generation of innovative thinkers and leaders, because they're going to live in a really challenging world. If we just think about everything that's gone on in the last year, the pace of technological change, globalization, how diverse everything is, we need kids that are prepared for a world that's very different.
So preparing is important, but so is selling toys. And, you know, Mattel had come, I guess since 2015, you've had quite a few leadership changes. There's been 2 CEOs who have come and gone. They bring you in from Google intentionally. They want you to incorporate cool tech into toys, right? So, but you've mentioned to me in the past your sort of fear of the attraction of shiny objects. And so how do you sort of navigate this idea of getting kids engaged? You know that they'd rather be on their smartphones half the time. How do you get them engaged, but also not succumb to the lure of technology that sort of dumbs them out?
Well, the good news for our industry is although kids are spending a lot of time consuming content and engaging with gaming, it's actually not coming from toys. The amount of time kids are spending playing with toys is actually relatively constant.
Really?
So what's really happening is their time is being shifted in terms of how they think about entertainment and how they use up their time. And because you're carrying these devices with you all the time, you have all these snackable moments throughout the day where you're able to get on and do things in a totally different way. So far, we're not seeing that. At the same time, we do need to find a way to integrate the two, because I said Generation Alpha has very different expectations for the entire world. Everything that's going to happen in their lives needs to be visual, on-demand, adaptive, interactive, and we have to find a way to embed that into our toy experiences. But we need to do it, as you said, we don't want to get distracted by shiny objects. There's a lot of toys that have been released that have tried to stimulate engagement with kids, but they're actually fundamentally not that fun. And kids don't want to eat spinach. And if you don't integrate the technology in a way that's actually fun, the kids don't stay with the play pattern.
This sounds like the movie Big. Do you all remember this scene where Tom Hanks comes in, he's playing with the toys, and he says, it's just not that fun, he doesn't play with it, and the toy maker, the CEO, hires him to help bring fun into it. Talk about storytelling and fun, because I know that's an area that you're passionate and eloquent on.
Well, at the end of the day, we want to stimulate kids' ability to tell their own stories. So one of the things I love most about our toy platforms is they aren't just character-based. We have amazing partnerships with entertainment companies that have created incredible stories that we want to build. That's an important part of a child's self-identification with pop culture.
Right.
So it's an important part of their development. So we definitely want to be part of that. As part of that whole development paradigm, we have kind of a view of a proprietary roadmap about what are all the skills kids need to succeed in the 21st century, and how do we actually give them the powerful tools so that they can tell stories. So if you think about Barbie is about nurturing the limitless potential in every girl. It's anything she wants it to be. And when people think back, and it's a multi-generational brand franchise, that was her way of exploring her self-identity, her relationships with people around her, and it's all about her telling her story and being empowered to be whatever she wants to be. That's why we have such a huge collection of careers. And of course, everyone in this room wouldn't be surprised to know that last fall, President Barbie was the hottest selling Barbie. We couldn't keep it in stock. But it's an important part of allowing her to find that story.
Can we give her a choice other than Ken? Can we, in terms of, can we broaden the love appetite for Barbie, or as she's experiencing her growth and finding a partner?
Well, I think it's really important for every girl to see herself at mass. When we think about the world and the diversity, one of the things that attracted me to this company and these brands is their focus on inclusivity. Everyone is included. And if you've ever talked with someone who hasn't felt included, that opportunity to walk to a shelf, it's like a self-validation. You hear that in the movie industry and other places where people haven't seen themselves represented.
So we had a fantastic town hall on diversity, and would you consider a same-sex partner for Barbie? Would you consider, I know Barbie is young, and I know that it's a sort of a de-romanticized character, but how broad would you consider the options in terms of...
Well, again, we're not creating the stories.
Right.
The dolls are there. The girl can have the world in her playroom.
Right.
Every shape and size and ethnicity, whatever makes sense in her family and how she wants to express her story.
Right.
All those things can be possible, and it is our job to ensure everyone feels included and empowered. And we are living in a world that is increasingly diverse, and part of helping kids develop and be those successful leaders of tomorrow is helping them learn how to embrace multiculturalism and diversity.
Great. In a minute, I want to get some questions. We've got a great group here, so raise your hands, please. But we talked about some cultural touchstones before, You also have some ambitious growth objectives. I know you're interested in a lot of expansion in China as well. How do you find those? How do you speak and get culturally literate in different cultures, especially with kids where, you know, a lot of times they're growing up and they are immersed in their worlds and there isn't a lot of that cross-cultural touching?
You know, one of the hallmarks of the company, and something that I sort of knew about when I went there, I was the most proud of, the company went internationally very early, and they empowered the local leaders in those markets to contextualize our brands in every country. So if you go to China, Thomas is actually Chengbao, and the story is all about the Chinese engine. And so we've actually worked really hard to ensure that our brands are locally adapted into those cultures. You'd be interested to know that if you were to look at one of our hottest selling items for Barbie in China, it's this case that has Barbie and all her clothes and shoes, and moms there are passionate about kids learning all sorts of life skills. And so this is a way for a girl to not only express herself with her doll and her fashion, but also to demonstrate organization skills, which is very important to that Chinese parent. So a lot of our products and the way they're put together are very much adapted to the local market.
We've got a paddle over there and then one here. Okay, great. Yeah.
Bill Briggs, the CTO at Delay Consulting, and 2 daughters in grade school. So I did my part in your holiday earnings to try to bolster returns. The last piece you said, life skills. I think it would be interesting with Barbie. The Connected Dream House was an interesting product. Hot Wheels, the AI kit. To build a platform to help drive experimentation of coding and personalization, it seems like it could be a really powerful way to shift the brand from, you know, math is hard Barbie from 15 years ago to being something to help, especially young girls.
Definitely. I mean, one of the reasons I went to Mattel is my 20% project at Google was all about gaining diversity in coding and inspiring more girls. And it's a huge issue that 74% of middle school girls, sounds like the age of your daughters, are interested in STEM education. And by the time they get to high school, 0.04% of them are interested in a career in computer science. And if we think about everything we all talked about in this room for the last couple of days and how technology is going to reinvent our lives, and we have a huge portion of the population, both women and minorities, not included in that developmental process, should challenge us, everyone in this room, to think about, is that the right thing for our society to create all these new experiences without everyone included? So this is a huge part of our focus. We actually have a product called Codapillar that actually brings basic coding skills to kids as young as 3 and 4, and that came out of Fisher-Price, finding a way to help kids understand the basic elements of coding. You can imagine with Barbie, with AR and VR, she doesn't actually just have to have a game developer Barbie, but she can actually go and experience that career and understand it. We had a wonderful, when I was at Google, Made with Code program, when you integrate coding, as you were suggesting, with things girls are passionate about, fashion, art, music, design. These things actually unlock her confidence and self-esteem to pursue those things. And so we definitely will be looking for opportunities. And so I think about it as we have a new brand development framework, which is thinking about, we have physical systems of play, and then we can enhance them with digital integration that truly enhances the imagination. As we said before, we don't want shiny objects, but we want things that truly enhance that learning and development, lets them take and experiment and try new things. And obviously Hot Wheels is an amazing property for doing that. We actually already have a curriculum that we developed with USC to learn math and physics by playing with Hot Wheels. If you can put a chip in those cars, just imagine the things you could help kids learn in math, physics, and science. And they would have fun doing it.
Or we've got a paddle up there.
I'm glad this is Michael Schrag with MIT, and it's interesting that you mentioned the point about USC, because Lego, as you know, has had a quarter-century relationship with MIT. You come from Google, which very much has not just a incremental innovation notion, but an R&D capability. The toy industry seems more interested in licensing than in real R&D, and in the interview here, you really haven't discussed research and development as opposed to licensing and different kinds of product platforms. Are you guys going to make a commitment to R&D and really learn about children play and parent interactions, or are you going to basically double down on toys and platforms?
So, as the leader of this company, we've made very public our commitment to being the global leader in learning development through play. We have the broadest set of play patterns across kids 0 to 12 and both genders. So at the root of that has to come R&D. We do a lot of R&D, maybe not the way you think about it, but we have 4 PhDs on staff. And we have thousands and thousands of hours of understanding how kids play. And I think where the magic happens is when you take technology and you're able to embed it in a beloved play pattern that kids actually are passionate about, because their minds are more open when they're really passionate about something. And that's why you see so many of these products get launched on the technology side that are tech first. And then they are kind of great for a nanosecond, and then they go away. What I saw in Mattel was a company with, we sell over 500 million Hot Wheels cars a year. They're $1. They're accessible to everyone. So I think about the concept of network effects. If you can put a chip in all those cars and you can create incredible exploratory experiences with technology and next generation interfaces, you can actually create communities where kids can also collaborate and they can play against each other. So you can create so many next generation experiences. And yes, you should expect us to be a thought leader and supporter of a lot of the next generation thinking on how do we bring technology into the learning and development experience.
So speaking of scale, and Michael Schrage just mentioned Legos. So your big competitors are Legos, Hasbro, Santa's Workshop. Would you consider merging with one of them?
I'm not sure about Santa's Workshop, but
okay,
we can debate that.
You get it right. Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty big. But the elves themselves, would you consider, but with Hasbro, would you consider merging with them in terms of trying to get the kind of scale that
Well, our strategies are quite different. We're about iconic properties where the play pattern is self-directed. That's the foundation of Mattel. Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price. They're not, we have content where you can bring a child deeper into the storytelling. They're a company that's much more focused on starting with media first, and then you bring the toy experiences with them. We actually don't compete that much. We're in very different play patterns. But for us, I think our focus is on how do we take our capabilities, our superpowers to the next level as a company.
Is there any toy out there or toy company out there that you like and admire that you don't own?
Well, there's no question, and the CEO of Lego who turned the company around is a close personal friend of mine. I think he was one of my first emails when I became the CEO of Mattel, and we all care about kids' development. He knows I'm equally as passionate as he is, and we want to have a diversity of play patterns and experiences for kids. So I definitely admire the work they've done with the MIT Media Lab is fantastic. Yeah. And we've also done similar things with other partners, and I think as a collective whole, everyone in this room can participate in this process of how do we think about leveraging technology to transform play. Last night at dinner, there were 6 or 7 people at my dinner who all had tinkered around with great things that they were trying to try out on their kids. And I said, well, send me a note, because the only way we actually change the development curve of how we do these things is if we collaborate.
It's great. I hope you get a lot of email from this crowd. My thanks to Margot Georgiadis. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Cliff. So much. Thank you.